Hi.
So let's call this meeting to order. This is the Public Arts Board meeting, the first Public Arts Board meeting, December 13th, 2017. We just follow the agenda before we elect the chairperson and the vice chairperson. It would be good to start with a round of introductions so that we all can, talk a little bit about who we are, where we come from. I'm the Development Services Director for the City of Oviedo. My name is Teresa Correa. I'm an architect. That's my background. And then I work with city planning. We are overexcited to have the Public Arts Board being established and moving forward with bringing public arts to the City of Oviedo. So, Jennifer?
Can I share a microphone? Mm-hmm. Can it move or no? Yes, it can. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Cockcroft. I am with the City Attorney's Office, but I'm not in-house. I'm at a law firm, Stonestrom McIntosh. We represent 5 cities right now, including Sanford, of which I am the board counsel for their Arts Commission. And also, so we represent Sanford, Oviedo, Mount Dora, Webster, and Daytona Beach Shores. And I have been with them for 2 years almost, and prior to that I was 10 years in-house with the City of Kissimmee. So we did not have an Arts Commission there, however, but I have been with the Arts Commission in Sanford for almost 2 years during their formation and helping them, go through the fundamentals of, figuring out what their goals are and how to accomplish them. And the obstacles, a lot of obstacles for them, but I think your board's a little bit different structure.
We won't have obstacles.
No obstacles in Oviedo. No. All right. So, hi. And if I can ever be of any help, or through Teresa.
My name is Mary Blake. I am your representative from the Seminole Cultural Arts Council, and that just means I'm a volunteer there too. I live in Oviedo, and I am a retired accountant, so no artistic background at all.
Mm-hmm.
Such a great, diverse group. I'm so happy with what we came up with. I'm Karen Dom, and my background is originally in graphic design. I studied visual communication at The Ohio State University, so I'm a big Buckeye. But I also am a watercolor artist, and over the past 10 to 12 years primarily, that's been what I do, with a little bit of graphic design sprinkled in here and there. But my focus and thrust has been watercolor art, and I sell at local markets and also online, and I teach art classes from my home as well to high school students and to adults.
Hi, I am Genevieve Fruit. My background is in architecture and urban planning. I used to work for the city. I worked here for 12 years. Now I'm working for the Florida Department of Transportation for the Turnpike. And I am also an amateur painter, and I enjoy very much the opportunity of being here and contributing for this board.
Frederick Kruger. I've lived in the Oviedo area about 20 years now, and I have no training in art formally, but I've just always enjoyed it. And I'm very interested in what Oviedo can do to promote the arts.
Hello, my name is Bethany Miller. I'm an art educator. I've been teaching for the past 15 years. I'm also a glass artist in my spare time. And I've lived in Oviedo for 7 years, so I just want to be a part of the beautification process.
Hello, I'm Justin Morrison. I live in Oviedo. I am a professional musician, writer, artist, and general crazy person. I own Songbirds Music, Art, and Dance Center, which is the new place by the LA Fitness. And we offer art, music, and dance instruction to people of all ages. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
Hi, I'm Melissa Stilio. I'm a Central Florida resident, born and raised, and I purchased my first home here in Oviedo. I love living here, and I recently left the Oviedo Winter Springs Regional Chamber of Commerce to go work with the City of Winter Springs in their Parks and Rec department. I don't really have any formal background in arts besides my degree is from Rollins College, and I have traveled quite a bit in life so far, and my favorite thing to do is to visit museums and public works of art.
Hi, my name is Margie Sloan, and I don't have any formal training in art, but I have a business called Photo Arts Design. I've moved from originally being a nurse and writing about nurses, and then taking pictures to accompany the writing, and then discovering I loved photography. So photography has become my passion, and I enjoy just taking pictures of just about anything, but primarily wildlife, and like to be out there in the woods taking pictures, and then hopefully selling some, and have done some artwork around town, and just am really excited about the possibilities that are going to occur here with our group. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
My name is Brian Smith. I've lived and/or worked here in Oviedo for about 11 years now. Worked for the Citizens Bank of Florida. Have a wife, 2 kids. You'll find me a lot of times coaching baseball at the sports complex here in Oviedo, and looking forward to what we can accomplish.
Jennifer would like to go with the Florida Sunshine.
Should we get into that first or chair?
In the agenda, that is first, since you are here, if you want.
Okay. Do you all have this packet in your folder? Is anybody here on another board for another city? No. Getting that out of the way. So, there's a lot of obligations that you have and privileges to be on a citizens board. In your role on the board, you represent not just yourself, but the whole, city of Oviedo. So with that comes certain obligations and laws. Some of these are set out. Generally, the goal behind all of the statutes that are in place are to make sure that the fundamental requirements are given to people, which is public notice, public access, public records, operating in the sunshine. Basically, government these days is very open, and that's the way most of the statutes are written. With that, you also have certain obligations not to benefit financially or act improperly when you're on a board. So let's just go briefly through some of these. Feel free to ask questions. So generally the statutes are found in 112, 119, 286, and the Florida Sunshine Amendment to the Constitution. We have Code of Ethics on the state level and potentially on the city as well. I'm not sure about Oviedo specifically whether you have a separate one. I don't think so. They're generally in line with each other. So we'll talk about public records laws, which how they apply to you, operating in the sunshine, and then quasi-judicial legislative may or may not apply to you, but I'll cover it as well. So the Code of Ethics, why do we need it? As I said, basically, so when you take action, you should be acting in the public interest. You shouldn't be in it for personal gain. You shouldn't be doing business shouldn't be giving grants to yourself or something like that when you're on a board. Like, for example, CRA board, you shouldn't be coming for a grant to a CRA board member, you're on the board. Same thing here. It would be a conflict, potentially. Public officials should be independent and impartial, and we don't want it to be used for private gain. We also want to make sure that all of our actions are taken in the public. That's why our door is open. Our meetings are open to the public, and we generally should have a period at the end of the meeting where anybody can address you on any topic within reasonable limits. This is provided for in the Florida statutes. That's even for topics that aren't on your agenda. So people have a right to be heard. Fundamentally, there's the obligation when you have a public meeting is notice, right to be heard, and a record kept, which is what Dahlia is doing for us, keeping our minutes and our records. We'll publish the agenda, which gives people the notice. We'll have it open to the public. If anybody's on the agenda, we'll give them a right to be heard, and also citizens' right to be heard, and then we'll also keep minutes. Those are the three fundamentals. So why should you be concerned? If you don't follow these laws, there are penalties, potentially criminally, removal from office, public reprimand, and civil fines. We don't want any of those things. Things you don't want to do. Ask or accept gifts. I mean, these things make sense. I mean, really. You don't want to do business with your agency. We talked about that. You don't want to be paid for your vote. You don't want to enter in a contract. You don't want to misuse public information. That wouldn't generally apply. I mean, most everything is public. There are some post-employment restrictions, but that wouldn't apply to you all. Dual office holding, that's why I asked, is anybody else on another board? Just, and we do have that a lot. People will try to serve on, we actually had it here. Somebody wanted to serve on this board, and they were on my Sanford board. And so she's not here. Let's move on. Disclosures, are we filling out Form 1s for this board? I'm not sure. We'll make that determination, and you may be required to fill out the Form 1, and that would, I don't think that's going to apply to this board, though. If you do get any gifts, those would have to be reported. If you spoke on behalf of the board and somebody gave you like a, thank you gift, anything over $25 needs to be reported. You want to avoid conflicts of interest. So here's just a little more detail on the same thing I just talked about. If we determine that you have to annually report, we'll provide you with that form, but probably not going to be. Prohibitive gifts, any gift over $100, any gift given to influence a vote. I don't think these aren't going to happen, but just so you're on notice. So anything over $25, got to be required. Anything below. Okay. All right. Conflicts of interest. Now, generally, the only way you could, most of you are probably familiar with Robert's Rules of Order. How many of you have been on boards of some sort or another? Raise your hand. So most everybody's probably familiar with Robert's Rules and the way meetings are held. Generally, in every time a vote is held, generally you're expected to vote. The only reason that you're allowed to abstain from voting is if you have a financial conflict that is a special benefit to you, that specially inures to you, and not just like a class at large. Like, for example, a city commissioner would be expected to vote on things, even if like he owns property, he's still expected to vote on matters that affect that property. But if he's voting on a measure that's on his property, and it may affect him financially, that would be a direct potential conflict. So, for example, if one of you had a project before the board, I don't know how, if you were being paid to do a project by the board, that may be the only time that you might have a financial conflict. The other situation where you, otherwise you're expected to vote on all measures if you're present. The only other way that you can abstain from voting is that if there's no way you could possibly be fair and impartial. Now, that's kind of like a jury standard. It didn't used to be in the statutes. It's relatively new. And I would hope that you all be fair and open-minded people on most of these things that come before you. If a conflict arises and it's something that you just really can't, if it's somebody you know personally and you all have personal problems or history or something that, then that may come into play. But if it does, we have a form for you to fill out. I have some suggested language, and you can just contact us and we figure it out. But otherwise, if you do conflict out for a financial reason, there's also a form to fill out as well. So you either vote or you fill out the form, and you abstain. And if you do abstain, then you are allowed to talk about it. You just have to kind of step away from the table. And that would only be in a scenario where you had like a big group. And it wouldn't really happen in this environment, really. So this will apply to all your boards. If you ever decide to serve on another citizen board, the rules are the same across the board. Like, you know, the laws are the same. So we don't want to have incompatible employment. We don't want to expose confidential information, but you're not really going to have any. You don't want to represent private interests before city agencies, but it's really not that frequent. Contracts with the city, that would be potentially an art project. If one of you did that, we'd have to look into that and disclose that. If you're in any litigation from the city, with the city, we disclose that. Anybody in litigation with the city? Now, public records, that's the big one. Anything that you do, even if it's with personal email, if you're conducting city business, it's public record. So if somebody, if you send an email to Teresa, or Teresa sends an email to you, that's public record. If we text back and forth, that's public record. If it's about city business. If you're scribbling notes during the meeting, that could potentially be public record, and generally is. As long as it's relating to the business at hand. Now, here's the other thing. You're only supposed to have your meetings here on the record. If you have social gatherings outside, you're allowed to have those. There's no prohibition on that, as long as you're not discussing city business or board business. So if you decide to go out for drinks afterwards, feel free, but don't discuss the board or any ideas you have for the board, because they should only be discussed as a whole group. You shouldn't if you gather outside information about projects or something like that, you shouldn't distribute them to the group, because that's considered a meeting. Anything like that, direct to Teresa. Hi. That's okay. Shall we pause? No, I'm sorry. It's traffic was that. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So we want you to do everything in the sunshine, basically. And I lost my train of thought. Don't email between each other. If you ever get an email from Teresa or I, will probably say at the bottom, please do not reply all. So you would make sure that you're not having a meeting. If we do decide we go on any field trips or anything like that, and we know we're going to be at the same place together as board members, then we will try to notice it, just so to protect ourselves and make sure minutes are kept, or recording or something to that effect. Make sure somebody doesn't come back against us later for some civil, criminal, or other penalties.
So just to clarify,
Sure.
if there's information that needs to be distributed to the group in between meetings, just send it to Teresa and she'll distribute it.
Or Andrew Dahlia, yeah.
I have a question too, since part of my role is to then take back what happens here to the Seminole Cultural Arts Council. Is that an issue?
No, no. You're allowed as council members to speak to other agencies, like city commissioners sometimes put out letters sort of what happened at the meeting. And if you just wouldn't engage in discussions like back and forth with other board members.
Right, it's really just to report if you're here or doing certain things.
Right. And it might be better to just present it in a minutes format, and then that way it doesn't seem like it's your perspective on it, rather than, and it looks more like it's the board's, right, the minutes of what happened. That might be a suggestion.
Does it make sense that maybe there's a change if you are a non-voting member?
Oh,
Which is
she
what
was.
I am.
You're a non-voting member.
member. She's just representing
okay.
the Seminole
Oh,
Arts Council.
okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I didn't know that. Anybody else? You're the only non-voting? Okay.
I have a question too. As a member of the Oviedo Photo Club, we work with the city to take pictures of their events. Is there any conflict there of taking those pictures and they're posted on the Zenfolio site?
You're not, are you paid for that?
No, this is all volunteer.
Okay. Thank you. And it's not a city board?
No.
Since part of our role here will be to help raise funds, if we do that on our personal time, email someone to try to get them to donate money, do we need to submit that email?
It's tricky. That's tricky. You need to be, what we've decided in Sanford is that you need board direction to do that. So certain people would be designated to reach out on behalf of the board, because when you do that, you don't want people to think that, oh, the city is, imposing on me, the city made me, we don't want anybody to, because when you do that, you're really representing the whole board, right?
Mhm.
So it's best if you have those discussions and they say, great, such and such a whatever council, and, we'll vote and nominate you, and I'll vote on it and say, yes, you're designated to contact them. Do you agree with that?
I think it will be a board decision.
Because that's how we handled it in Stanford.
And we'll discuss that. We have a fund that was created.
Yeah, we
Right.
didn't have any money in Sanford, so it was a bigger issue.
We would not collect money ourselves. We would direct,
You have funding.
any-
You're
any
a
donation.
funded mandate, not a non-funded mandate.
Yeah, we don't have.
You have some.
Right now, we have no funds, right? But we have means to create.
Okay,
funds.
all right, good, okay, all right. Well, that's good to hear. So mainly just if you ever have any, questions, if it ever gets in the back of your mind that it might not be kosher, give us a call. And err on the side of caution, because even if you're not talking about board business, if somebody doesn't like you, what's going to stop them from ethics commission? I saw Margie and Melissa talking at the bar the other night, and looked to me like they were talking about the arts commission, and then there's a complaint and an investigation of this and of that, and so. And don't ride to the meeting together, please. It just looks bad. Don't carpool if you can avoid it. If you don't have a car, we'll work something out. So, yeah, I had some board members do that. I was like, really? So, Sunshine Law, that's all about the Sunshine Law. It applies to all elected and appointed members of boards of state and city and county agencies of all types, even water boards, CRAs, everything. So anytime any two members of the same board, and realize it's the same board, you can talk to members of other boards outside of here, but just not your board, on board matters. So, and that includes the emails, texting, all those kinds of things. So, now you can go to social gatherings like political, say the Republican Party or the Democratic Party is having a forum of candidates. Doesn't keep you from going. It doesn't keep you from talking. You just shouldn't discuss with each other. And if somebody starts bringing up art board stuff, or even if you're on a different board later on, say you decide you want to go to a different board later on, you can be at these places. You can talk to about what's going on, but you may give your summary. You may give your summary, your opinion, but then you all shouldn't talk about it to each other or go back and forth. And if other people start asking you questions, it's best to disengage. And if you know you're going to be at the same place at the same time at a meeting, it's best to notify us so that we can notice it and make sure that we don't have any violations. Because we have obligations to give the public reasonable notice of the meeting, and we have to take minutes. So, did you have a question?
Yeah, Margie and I,
Did you write to the meeting together?
we're together. We are generally together once a month at least.
That's fine.
Another meeting.
Another board meeting?
Not board.
Okay.
No.
Just don't.
Committee.
A committee?
Yeah.
What type of committee?
Over.
Oh. As long as you don't discuss any board business, you'll be all right.
And you and I are
And
in the photo
don't
club.
sit by
Just
each
wanna ask,
other.
I see Margie at least twice a
Yeah.
month at another meeting.
Just don't sit together and make sure if you can
Why
avoid
avoid her
it.
anyway?
Sit across the room. Just try to avoid the appearance of impropriety. That's the biggest thing. Because people can be nasty, unfortunately. So the next thing is ex parte communications. If somebody contacts you about something that's coming before the board, disclose it. Generally, we say just don't have those. It's best not to talk about stuff coming before the board unless you were directed to gather information on behalf of the board. That's different. But generally, we presume ex parte communications to be harmful. If you do have them, we ask that you disclose them. So if somebody calls you or sends you an email, bring the email and give that to Dahlia or Teresa, turn it in, make it part of the record. We also ask that you don't go out looking at sites and things like that on your own unless the board directs you to, and you're also going to disclose those. Mostly these things come up with like planning boards, and we don't want people going to look at places independently. Arts board's a little different. Sometimes we do want you to go look at places, but we'll disclose those. So public comment is always required at public meetings. We must allow people with their opinions to express them, whether we agree or not. We can make certain limits on those. We can make them, if everybody in the room is of one opinion, we can sort of ask them to designate a spokesman. We can also limit the time, usually about 3 minutes, and we can keep them on topic. And we don't have to listen to the same thing over and over. We can say, okay, if anybody's got anything different to say, please come up. Otherwise, please, because sometimes you can end up at meetings. I spoke to an attorney from Fort Lauderdale. He was at a meeting till 3:30 in the morning last week for a city council meeting. Can you imagine? So, board decisions. So generally, you're going to have to be looking at certain criteria that's in the code and or the statutes, in the Florida statutes. Your authority is vested in your creating ordinance, which I think everybody's got a copy of. And we have to use the criteria as laid out before us as the justification for our rulings. I don't know, will they be doing approvals of easements or things like that? No.
It will be recommended.
Okay, all right. So, so just generally, in case you end up on another board, your rulings have to be able to stand up on appeal. If you're a formal decision-making board, you have to use the criteria set out, because if somebody sues later, you have to have had a basis in the record for that decision. And if you deviated from that, then you need some justification. Quasi-judicial legislative, that's just basically quasi-judicial is when a board makes decisions. Legislative is when you're making ordinances or laws. You won't be doing either of those probably. So we'll skip over all that. Let's keep this all, feel free to keep this. This is good for basically all boards, so like I said. And if you have any questions, ethics website, great resource. And also there's my email address. So that's that. Any questions? Just a basic overview. It's not too complicated.
So the next item on the agenda will be the election of the chair and the vice chair. Would you prefer to do it now or later in the meeting? I mean, how do you feel comfortable?
Take care of it now.
What else do we have to do?
Let's do it.
How is the process done?
Well, someone has to nominate someone, and then we'll vote on that person.
Because if anybody has interest in being an officer, then sort of express it, and then we can get nominations. And
What are the responsibilities of chair and vice chair?
It's just chairing the meeting. So, and if the chairperson is not here, then the vice chair would replace the person.
So they would call the meeting to order and go through the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
throw anybody out, Except the lawyer, yeah.
May I make a nomination?
Certainly.
I would like to nominate Genevieve Pruitt, because I think her experience working for the city would be a very good thing to have. It's the dealings we have to do with the city.
I have never been on a board before either.
Well, many times in the board, but not as the chair. But yes, you have a lot of experience in the board, in boards, right?
Is that something you want to do? Would you accept the nomination? Do we have any other nominations while she finishes up?
Okay. Accept.
Any other nominations?
Yeah.
Brian, because he, one of the founding, this was sort of your initiative initially, right?
By accident, yeah.
So, on the first one, or we do it We've got two nominations, so.
Oh, I meant for vice chair.
Oh, for vice chair?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, for vice chair. All right, so.
Sure, yeah.
Any other nominations for chair or vice chair?
So who nominated Brian? Was it Karen? Okay.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
I second it. I second.
Lisa?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Are we doing both? Did we do both? Okay. So we have. Congratulations to both of you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
That's that. So we should take on. Okay, our fourth item in the agenda is the role of the board, resolution number 3238-16, ordinance number 1653, and ordinance number 1660. I believe that Teresa would...
Well, and this is just really for information. So the resolution is the one that created the Public Arts Committee. It took us months of, meetings to get the policy that we were going to propose to City Council. Then the committee did a presentation to City Council. We approved the ordinance, and that is ordinance 1653. And then so this is the one that set up the policy, the financial, mechanisms and all that. And then we had to revise with Ordinance 66 to extend the number of members in the Public Art Board, and then to include a member from the Seminole Cultural Art Council. And that was done last month, and so we have this our first meeting today. So this is just for information for you if you want to go
So
through.
this is all approved
It is
already
all-
by the city council? Okay.
So our fifth item is the discussion on the committee procedures. We have here handout, Master Public Arts draft discussion.
This is the fun part, right? Now the fun part begins. So what happened that after we had the policy established, during the summer I was contacted by Lydia Mucciolo, and she's a local resident, but she's now in the Brown University, very bright. She happens to be Genevieve's daughter. So she came here. She spent, a couple of weeks here. When she approached me, can I intern with you? I said, yes, I have the right, project for you, and that is to establish our draft master plan for the public arts. She was super excited. So she came up with the draft. We had a lot of, interactions, but. Since she's local, she's also knows the city and had a fresh view on what we can do. So I'll just go over quickly. For us, the challenge of this board is how to launch a public art program in the city with zero money right now, right? So that is a challenge, but it's also a good challenge because there are ways to bring excitement and start kick off the project without with a lot of ambitious, programs. So we can start in different ways. So she started by giving a big picture, why public arts, why to invest in public arts. And we all know that it's not only good for the soul, but it also makes sense economically. It attracts business, attracts residents, retain residents, and it's a great, it's a win-win, I think, for the city. So we can go over quickly. Page number 4, she tells a little bit about herself, and then she acknowledges the initiative from City Council. In the executive summary, she gives a little bit of an overview of that we don't have major public installations, but Oviedo has a tradition in public art that is dispersed, right? But it's out there. So we are not starting from zero, because we just need to capitalize and attract, and merge all these different initiatives that we have up there. And why creativity is the engine of the economy, and how a creative sector in Oviedo would benefit, the whole city. Then she gives a little bit of a historic overview of the city, and then comes to give a little bit of the community profile as well. And this we have to update. This was done in summer, so our population, the updated number is 17,700. So that is, we'll have to update that. Page 8, what is public art? And then she describes that it can include from statues to murals to there are different range of forms and scales. It can be temporary, it can be permanent, it can be a pop-up, installation. It can include memorials, murals, sculptures, and all that. And it can not only shape a public space, but also help some public space become destinations, right? If we have the right art, the right amenity. And that is something that in the planning side we have been discussing a lot. I mean, that is where I think Oviedo can give a big step, is how to humanize a little bit of the public space and bring more amenities for the residents. So it's really how to help create the visual identity, but also provide and promote economic benefits. So we keep on showing examples of public arts in different environments in page 9 and 10. So you see, and it has from major and expensive pieces of art to like murals in garage doors that could also bring an interest, right, to a public space. Page 11, then we start to talk about what are the goals of our ordinance, our public arts policy, and which is to foster artistic creativity, support creative placemaking, attract and retain a creative workforce, broaden the role of the artists in Oviedo, develop Oviedo as an arts destination, reflect the diversity of the citizens of Oviedo, encourage and unite civic engagement, improve the quality of life, and incubate art programs and art-related businesses. Page 12 gives what is the Public Arts Board. So here it still shows 7 members. Now we have 9 members with the Ordinance 1660. And I love this picture because it's really, it's magic, right? It's just, and this was an installation just to bring awareness to, our trees. And it's just paint, so that is, we were trying when we were doing the research and we discussed with David to get, low-hanging fruits, right? Cheap, ideas that could just kick off the program and start and bring some excitement. So I thought this was an amazing idea. The other one is to start, and as it said here, what better place to start a public art than City Hall, in the heart of the city, right? We have some blank walls here in the city, and the first one here in the bottom is actually in the annex building where our office is. And we have also a wellness program in the city that we want to stimulate people to use the stairs without getting the elevator. We only have 2 stories here, so we want to stimulate people to, to go to the stairs. And so this is the interior, stairwell. And this is just a boring blank wall, so it would be fun to have something there also to stimulate. So we have dual purpose, right? To have an amenity, but also stimulate people to go through the stairs. And by the way, I just want to show in the back here, we participate every year in the contest from Seminole County, the art contest. And our department, because we all love art and we participate, so it's been years already. And so these are all the contributions from the employees. And I got a first place, which was kind of absolutely surprising with my very unpretentious, yes, picture. I always get something, but this time I got the first place, which was really amazing. Jenna got the third place with her gorgeous painting, but she took it away, and she was supposed to bring it back. She never did. And actually, we had a place because it was so big that we had a structure for you to play. So if you bring it back, and that was a request actually from a council member that said, well, we should have an exhibition here. But that is just an idea that, yes, we have walls here that we can exhibit art from local artists, from schools, that is also a way to, a cheap way to show off what we have, right, locally.
And you have your Oviedo Photo Club gallery.
And which is here too, and that is an amazing contribution from the Oviedo Photo Club. And it's already here. We'll go over there. The other opportunities, we have a lot of grounds here in City Hall. We have a lot of space here that we could also try to do something, right? That can be temporary, can be an event. It can be. We have some fences. They are just boring. We could bring schools to paint the fences. So these are just ideas, and we'll have a session to brainstorm, right, to hear from you as well. But while we were doing that, we wanted to put something in writing that, the different routes that we could go. So page 15 gives the Oviedo Photo Club exhibition. These have been happening since 2012, 10, and some years ago, I think last year, we included the annex building where we stayed. So now we have exhibition that starts here, then rotate to the other building. And these are just amazing pictures that, all staff can benefit going from one meeting to the other, and residents and people when they are coming to city chambers here, we have to have the opportunity to look at all the photographs in our corridor. Page 16 shows other public art opportunities with urban furniture, right? So that's something that not only we provide in our parks and in our side right-of-ways, but also we require developers to bring, bicycle racks and all that. So that's an opportunity if we want to stimulate, developers and the private sector also to engage in providing arts with the urban furniture. Then we decided to create the idea of having a cultural corridor. So why don't we start by creating one route that would be our, where we could channel all the contributions that we would get. And I think in page 21, we give, like, Oviedo Boulevard is an amazing, I think, street. It's a very beautiful street. The landscape is beautiful. It's connected to our new downtown. And we have the plans to extend Oviedo Boulevard to Alexandria Boulevard. So, and that is in the making. We are discussing the development of the Population Pond area here between City Hall and the new downtown. And with that, we would extend Oviedo Boulevard. So that would be, if we could concentrate our efforts in the beginning through this corridor, and we would name it our cultural corridor. I think that would be a nice idea. So from page 17 on, these are just ideas what we could bring into our mediums, right, in Oviedo Boulevard. Page 18 shows cool benches and utility boxes. So some cities are doing that is a way, since they are there, they are required infrastructure, they are ugly. So how could we humanize, those structures and transform them into some kind of art? With mesh, right? With some kind of...
Like the car wrap.
Yes. Yeah.
Wrap in plastic.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be... these were just ideas that we got from the internet, so I mean... Then page 19, we started to identify where are the areas that are ready, right, to receive some kind of public art, a sculpture or a fountain or something. We have this beautiful roundabout in Oviedo Park that is, would be a perfect place, and I think that was the initial idea, right?
Yeah.
That
I drive through there and notice it's very blank.
So Brian Smith, I think that's how this whole public arts program started, that he contacted the city trying to propose something to be placed in this roundabout, and then city council said, well, for that we need it's time to have a policy and a program, so that's how it started. But we agree, this is a perfect spot, and it would be in our cultural corridor if we decided to do that. Another place will be, it's also in Oviedo Boulevard, there is a semicircle area that is already even landscaped, but it's ready to have something, and it could be either the wall itself or something, in the middle of that semicircle. So these are just ideas we were really brainstorming, and Livia, was taking it to the next level, researching and getting, information from other places to include here. Another opportunity that we have two mural spaces in the Central Lake Park in Oviedo on the park. They are ready. One is shown here on page 22. They have even the lighting, the proper lighting. I mean, a mural, if we find the right artist, to do that, and there are some suggestions already of people that could do that. It's not an expensive entertainment, so we could try to start with that. There is also this fence. There is just a boring fence but in the Central Lake Park, there also could be a good platform to create something there as well.
Are you going with artists that are local from Oviedo, or will you
well,
go
this
beyond?
this will be the role of the public arts, right? To either have a call for artists to propose or something like that. So that would be one of your roles. Then we also discussed, because there is a famous cow parade, and we had the idea, well, maybe we could create a chicken parade in Oviedo. I know these may be, some people may love it, some people may hate it, but we just decided to put it here too as an idea. Page 24, we also thought that one of the murals in Oviedo in the park or even elsewhere could be one that would be just a postcard, mural that people could go and take pictures in front of, something that, if you see that, you are in Oviedo, right? Because it's an Oviedo, makes reference to Oviedo. Page 25 shows our parks. So we have, Oviedo is very rich in parks, right? We have beautiful parks. And this one is particularly interesting, the Riverside Park, because it's very young, right, park for young people. And the skateboard, we saw this skateboard with this cool, graphics. And I thought that was great. I talked to our Rec and Parks director, Drew Bowmore, who is very excited with the public arts program as well, and said, Teresa, I've thought about that. There are some maintenance issues, but that he agrees that would be a great idea to do something like that. And they also have a little house next to the skateboard that could also be, painted, in a way that could be also cool for the park. Then we have also our trails. The trails are not city property; they are Seminole County's trails. But that would be also it would be a great place to display art and do something cool with that. Then page 27, again, we were researching cheap ideas and fun ideas. I don't know if you're familiar with Brainworks, but this is a company that developed a paint that is invisible, but when it rains, then it shows what is. So it really it seals the concrete. So when it rains, the portion that is sealed shows whatever you painted it. And it's very, interesting and it's surprising, right? Because the video is very nice. If you want to check that out, it's rainworks.com. Page 28 shows, again, the second mural, which is a small mural in Central Lake Park, and also, how to maybe paint some benches or, bring something interesting. The top one, which is this mural with colors, with waves, these are, it's a recycling program, and they are doing with caps of different bottles. So they collect it, and then they arrange that in this interesting shape, creating art. This is the fence behind City Hall that I talked that would be something that we could also organize something with a school or with some community to do even a community event there. And then other public art opportunities, how to stimulate the private sector. We have already been doing that because we have approved, or I wouldn't say approved, because we had architectural design guidelines since 2006, but we have approved a new article for architectural standards that are now also involve not only commercial and office, but multifamily townhomes and all that. And within the guidelines of the architectural standards, we are stimulating the private sector to provide murals, especially for freestanding buildings in a more suburban setting when you have, the building with 4 elevations, visible. There is a lot of issues with fenestration, right? So there are a lot of blank walls. And one of the ways to break those blank walls is to bring some murals. So we managed to do that with Starbucks here in Central Lake Park. They had 2 murals with coffee beans, and Chipotle as well, the other building, they did the same thing. So this is an opportunity to bring some more, interest to our buildings as well. But there are other opportunities. So big developments in the city, like the mall. The mall has a lot of space. There's a lot of public spaces, and the mall has a new owner. We are doing some redevelopment of the mall, so this is also an opportunity for the city to engage with them and the Public Arts Board to engage with them. Although the Public Arts Board deals mainly with public art in the right-of-way, the public facilities in the public space, in the public right-of-way. But we could also propose, things to the private sector that we would reach out to them and try to make them, propose something in the lines that align with our public art policy. Then Divya also researched a little bit about public art accessibility, so how to make public art accessible for different kinds of disabilities. And the bottom one is this one that you can feel, the art, right? I thought it was very interesting, and so she also included that here. So this is usually mainly examples of what we can do, and it's just to start the conversation. And we would have to create a master plan, so it's part of one of the roles of the board. So we wanted to have at least a draft to come to and to show to you as the starting point for our conversation. Page 32 shows possible locations of public arts in the city. So we were trying to identify target areas that we could discuss. And then the funding options. So this is already established in our ordinance. So we have several established funding opportunities. One is that we can have a percentage of capital improvement projects in the city, but they just relate to facilities and renovations of buildings and parks, so does not relate to any capital improvement related to infrastructure, to sewage, to water, or streets, or road improvements. It will be just facilities. So we are building a new police station, and for that one, 1% of that, the cost of that building would be dedicated to the Public Arts Fund, up to the cap of $50,000. So this will come, to the Public Art Fund, but we are still not there. The other option that we have, it's also in our code, so it's already approved in Article 8, in this article that has the architectural and urban design standards, is that developers, when developers deviate from the code for any quantifiable measure and standard of the code, they have to provide a mitigation. And one of the mitigations that we create is that they can donate to public art fund. So we have one project that we are reviewing right now that is a storage facility at Lockwood Boulevard, and it's Lockwood Storage Facility. The code requires for larger buildings, larger than $30,000, that they provide a public or semi-public space, like an amenity, like a courtyard, because that's something that we also want to stimulate in the city. But because it's a storage facility, it doesn't make sense, to require that from them. And they are not, they are willing to do something to mitigate that. So, and they were very excited with the idea of giving to the public art, because they actually were planning to have murals in their building, but the contractor, actually the company that is that has the storage facility, saw some issues with maintenance and all that, and they decided to donate to the public art in a more visible place, because that's the other thing. The facility is going to be kind of hidden, so it makes more sense to us as well to have it donated. So we are negotiating with them the funds to maybe fund one of the murals at Central Lake Park. So, but that is an option that is out there that we can also create other opportunities from other developers to do the same thing. And of course, we also have grants, so we can try to find grants and apply for grants for public art. And then we have the possibility of donations. The city have the Friends of Oviedo, which is a nonprofit foundation, and that was created for the Veterans Memorial here in the Central Lake Park. So we already have that foundation, ready, and so the donations would go to the to this foundation, and then would be transferred to the Public Arts Fund. Will be a dedicated fund, and then. The other thing is that when we provide urban furniture now in the city, in our parks, when we are replacing our own, equipment, we can try to squeeze in a public art component in our. So these are the funds that we have, the possibilities that we have. Of course, with donations, I mean, we can think of a lot of ideas to trigger, right, and to channel some donations from the local community, and then the rest talk a little bit about how we have art adoption, how we would do that, and the maintenance and conservation, and some definitions from the ordinance. So that's basically the draft that we created with the help of our amazing intern from the summer.
Yeah, she did a great job.
Yeah, she did a great job. Yeah.
What a jump, what a leg forward to have this done.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was
So after the presentation, actually, I have a question, Lisa, about the master plan. So that's something that it's expected from the board to produce and present to City Council?
Yes. So, yeah, we don't have a time frame for that, but, yeah, we would have to. I think it would be good. It is part of the ordinance. That's one of the functions of the board, is to propose a master plan for the public arts. But also, that's would be the guideline, for all of us. So I think that makes sense. So where to concentrate, the efforts, I think that.
So that most likely would be one of our first tasks.
I think so too. Yeah.
That would be then one of our first tasks as a board, to produce a master plan or give the direction how much that staff would be involved in that. How is the...
Well, we
have already that.
Yeah, we already have that. So I mean, we'll collect, the comments, right, from you all, and then we'll finalize and show to council. But we can also discuss what will be. Are we going to have something to launch the program, right? Are we going to? And I think that is something that we can also discuss and include here. One aspect that we did not address here, so this was done during summer, but of course since then things are, we collect some information here and there. But one, I think, is the educational, aspect that I think we could also, think that's also cheap, but also could bring some incentive, right? So have lectures here for the residents, or for on public arts, on things that we can do. So we can ask, invite, different cities to show cities that already have their program to, tell us what they are doing. So we can start, in different ways. So that would be a component that we did not address here. And then,
based upon what I read in the ordinance, it also refers to performance art. All of this seems to be just static art. Is it the position of this board to get into promoting performance art as well?
yeah, We did not limit to just graphic or, yes, and we have, music, we could have music, dance, these are all,
It's open.
I think so, yeah. It had never been closed. That's why we made it that.
So there was a concern brought up, I remember in one of the previous meetings, about that possibly conflicting with the person who coordinates the events for the city of Oviedo. I remember that being mentioned. I don't know if that's still a concern or not. But
Well, that depends on how we do that. I mean, we have an amphitheater, we have, right, these are city facilities. These will have to be coordinated with the Parks and Rec, because they are the ones that coordinate. But we can have school, activities. We can have UCF presenting, as part of, as part of our public arts program. It's really what you all decide to invest in. Given the fact that staff time is limited, right? So this is on top of our, our regular job Let me tell you, this is the most exciting committee in board to be in, because this is about, a very interesting subject, right? But we have our regular job, to do. So we have to take into account that the time of staff is limited and our budget is limited too. So, and actually, right now it's zero. But I mean, if
you
we
anticipate, or you, based on what we have here and what we think we'll have, you have some idea in the next 6 months you hope to have X amount of budget available for this committee, or
I don't have a flow right now. So we have one development that is willing to contribute to the public arts fund. This is the story. How to quantify, the money to compensate.
Right now, we don't know how we're going to obtain the money.
Yeah.
Or at what point.
At what
Maybe
point?
A year
So
down the road,
the-
18 months down.
Yeah, I would say this one, it should be months, like 2-3 months. We should know. But it's
They're
not going to
talking
be
about giving us
millions.
money.
No.
They're talking about paid for a mural.
Yes, will be something,
The new police station, I have no idea how much money they're spending on that. Will 1% of that go into the fund?
but it's capped at $50,000.
And is it at the point where they finish the police station that we get the money?
I think it's at the point that I think they will, as they go, as they pay, we would get
And when are they
1%. Right now, they are in design phase.
Okay, so we've got a ways to go.
So this one will take a while, but it's already funded, but they will have to yeah.
I had a
Funded for
question.
how much?
What's that?
How much is the funding for the new?
I don't have the exact number. I can get it, but
That
it's
would be millions.
yes.
But we'll get
It's going to be capped at 50,000. I think we'll get 50,000. That's what I think it's.
The fund is for the whole project or the building, the cost of the building?
So the funding was for, I think, the building and the renovation of the old building, because we have the new building and then we have the renovation of the.
I know, but the way that you calculate is over the cost of the building itself, the structure, not the whole project. Like you have a parking lot, you have everything. The whole project will be more than just the cost of the building.
But since
That's
it's a
the plan.
maximum of 50,000 anyways.
I think it will
Yeah.
be the whole thing without infrastructure. So road improvements do not count. Anything that is utility related would not count. But I think the capital improvement project will include the parking. If they provide
that's
parking,
what, because-
if they provide parking, because we have already parking here. So I don't know if they will provide parking or not. But I think it will be the whole capital.
The whole project, not
Yes.
just the structure, the building structure.
I don't think so. I would say it's the whole project, right?
So my question was, you mentioned just sort of that listening tour, kind of hearing from some other
places that already have the arts board. Is that something that we could do now, since we don't have the money and we don't really know exactly how we want to go about it? Would that be something that we could do now? And how do we contact them and maybe make that happen? Like if we could leave here with some sort of tangible.
Well, I can probably help you with some of that. On our council, we have, like the city of Castleberry, we have one of our commissioners who, Castleberry has done an outstanding job.
I would say that.
He would be more than willing to come and talk to you all, or all of us at a meeting. But there are several on our council that work in other cities and have some activity. But if I had to pick one, I'd say Castleberry is it. Because they have done, they are well on their way to doing all kinds of things. They've got the murals, they've got the art, they've done events in the park related to in their park relating to arts. They're very much ahead of the game.
That's where he's done it to make everybody else envious.
Yes, correct. And so I would suggest that would be the person we would like to get to tell us more about how they went about raising money and getting their funds.
And how they started, right? Because they now have established programs, so how they started. And that's the thing, I mean, the example of Oviedo will be also used later on for other cities. I mean, there are a lot of other cities that are small, and they haven't started their program yet. But we have examples around here. So Castleberry is a great one.
I went city board, city public art board, or is it just a group of people who've gotten together?
I think it's just people that have gotten together. Okay. But the major push is one of the council members who's very active. In fact, he took the Cultural Arts Council over there and showed us around, which might be something that might be good for Oviedo to let him take us on a tour to show us, actually show us what he's done. So, and explain how they went about it. They started from ground zero. And no money.
Yeah, I have a question on what our role is, just beyond the money end of it. Just for an example, if, say, we were starting out and doing something inexpensive like hosting or talking about getting the schools interested in doing a sidewalk chalk contest or something, which wouldn't cost anything, but it's all art related, and it's amazing what kids can come up with, and you could even have the staff, teachers involved in it as well. But what is our role in that? Do we organize an event and become a chair of an event and have to find volunteers to host this event? Or are we just out there to propose this to the schools and let someone else run with it? I'm not sure I understand what that role is. Does anybody have a feel for what we're talking about?
Well, I think there are, your role is to recommend to City Council. So you have to recommend, programs and ideas to City Council, and they would want to know the cost, so how much, what we're talking about, who is paying, if the funds have money to support that or not, or if it's just inviting people. I mean, that is something that we can do here, because it's not really a program, or it's just an invitation, from another board member to come here.
You need someone to be head of a committee to organize that whole thing and pick dates and times and places and coordinate all of that. So
I think that we would have to coordinate with the Parks and Rec.
Oh, okay.
Because it would be an event from the city would have to be coordinated with them.
I see. Okay.
Inviting someone to come and speak to us, I mean, that is nothing that we need to.
Right.
But an event, so if we want to have a school coming to do a contest or something at art right away, that's a special event. We'll have to,
So
contact.
they would provide, the Parks and Recreation would provide the manpower to put something like that?
Well, we will have to estimate all that, because, and see if they have the so we can propose.
Okay.
And if we need to close streets, then police has to be involved as well. I mean, so
It's a big thing, yes.
yeah, we have to propose, and then
Another question. You talked about this, let's say we do get the opportunity to have a mural from the storage company. Would it be this committee that would then go out and decide, get the call to artists,
Yes.
decide what mural would be on that building?
Yes.
Okay.
Will be,
No, we would recommend.
you recommend,
Sorry.
yes.
Recommends what?
I think that the role of the board is also to see how that would be produced. I mean, you can propose to have a contest. The result would be one, first, second, and third place, or I don't know how that contest would be, but then you would, I see it like that, and propose and recommend to city council. You know, I think that I see our role as thinking about how to make things happen, and how they would, how you could try to capitalize from other citizens, city council, and other departments in the city. I see more as, that contacting General County Public Schools, the local schools, the teachers, you name it. But that's my personal opinion on how I see the board, the role of the board.
Okay.
And of course, that depending on what we come up with, we will be more or less involved. But I think that's what. But for that to happen, I think that also doing the master plan, it would be a good exercise, because then we would be able to think about, okay, how do we do that? Would we like to maintain like a program of events or things that we want to do, that we would like the city to do? We would be mostly, as I said, making it happen, and providing information about how it could be organized. So that's how we can, with our diverse backgrounds here, try to help, I believe.
Yeah, I have a question about the master plan. You came to this today, and it's very detailed. It's well put together. It sounds like they had a whole summer to put it together. Do you want us to present it to City Council sometime soon?
No, I think today, for instance, the idea was just to give that to you, discuss a little bit. You can think about that if you want to bring other ideas or other comments in our next meeting, so that we can. We don't have any at this point. We don't have any hurry to propose anything, right? So we can. We were going to brainstorm today. We can brainstorm another session, but it was just to. Let's start the conversation. Sure. This is to start the conversation. It can be expanded. It can be. We can start having priorities. We can detail some programs. We can. So, for instance, I love photograph as well, and the example of the Seminole County contest. I mean, if we have a contest of photographs for city residents on the city, right? How much do we need to have for a first prize, second, and third? I mean, it doesn't need to be much, right? And how much? I mean, so people would submit to us during a window, and then we'll have a jury to judge, and then present. I mean, that's not much, but that is already an event, right? That can happen here, and City Council can present the awards. I mean, so. This is something that, if we have $500, in our funds, we could start. How do we have $500 now? But we can start also asking for donations from the community. But we can also have donations of, imagine something like a silent auction from artists that will donate art, and then we do an event, can be attached to another event of the city. That we have, so that is how we start. So these are just ideas for you all to think, and then maybe if you send me the comments, and we can improve to,
But they're very specific ideas. Like you have a road marked out, you have like walls from murals.
But these are just ideas. I mean, I like them, but I mean, it's up to the
No,
board
it
to.
seems perfectly laid out already. So like, what do we have to do to create a master plan? This seems great. It seems like we just need to find the people and raise the money to make it happen, right?
Well, I think we have the opportunity now to go back and read through this and make our suggestions and say, well, maybe I don't like this. Or say, how about this in addition? So now I guess this is kind of like a springboard, if you will. So we go back. I know it looks very polished and finished, but I think it looks very finished, but it's a beginning point for us to get started and get thinking is the idea.
Do we need, I know we need a master plan, but do we need a master plan to begin doing some of these other things? Because it could take us 6 months, 9 months to create a good master plan that we might want to present to City Council, but that's
A long time.
That's a distance. I mean, you know,
Right.
are there little projects that we might be able to decide to do to get the motivation or suggest to City Council be done
Yeah, what-
while we are creating this master
Yeah.
plan? Otherwise, I feel like we could be stagnant for these next 6 months trying to develop.
But I don't think we need, frankly, I don't think we need 6 months to develop a master plan. And what we can do is that we can revise the master plan, next year. So we can say, this is our initial, plan, and we can improve this one with,
Because
create.
until they ask for it, we can just keep modifying it and adding to it.
Well,
right?
but we can, I think we could include an educational component. We can, give some other ideas. I mean, it's just up to you. But then we would take to council. So this is the starting point, and now this is the plan. Because then we will have to. What is the action plan? What will be the first event? What do we plan to do in the next 6 months? With this committee. How are we going to launch the first, set of
You think a public event would be something we should do to kind of kick off and get the name out there and, raise awareness that
So
we
you
are.
need money, right? So how we...
Well, like I'm thinking, what if we did, a lot of places do like a color run. Maybe we could do something in reverse where the runners or walkers paint things as they're going along, and then we could use that art posted somewhere here in the building, something like that. But you're charging, you can raise money by charging people. But if we do that, is that more Parks and Rec money, or is that coming out of our money? How would that work? Could we use other people's money, I guess is what I'm saying, to kind of help us along?
Parks and Rec money? The Parks and Rec, I said no.
Okay.
I can see him here. No, Teresa, you're not getting my money.
We have to rely on donations.
I think
Grant writing is a long process.
Yes.
And trying to,
Or have a project similar to what you were talking about that really does not cost
anything other than
anything.
buying the job.
You can give these, if you do it for school students, you could do certificates, not necessarily give monetary, and so the cost of the chalk would be basically, so maybe if we could figure out some projects that are not money intensive at this point.
Well, could we maybe put together a form letter that we can mail out trying to raise funds? Is that allowed?
Well, we already have one person willing, so we should work on that project first, right?
Well,
That's where the money's already at.
for instance, the bank I work at, they've been in the community for 70 years. They know I'm part of this board, and they're essentially already on board to donating money. So if I already know that one business is already interested, how many others might be, yeah, sure, if we just send them a simple letter?
Don't you think they have to have a lot of organizations want some type of,
Like a green
well, they
plan.
want a
Well-
project associated with it. Like, they don't want to just donate arbitrarily to the city or the arts council. They want to know you're doing this color run or
True.
this art project, and therefore I'm donating.
But we're not necessarily asking for $100,000. I mean, $1,000 they might not mind.
But I think maybe a good opportunity when we take this to council, right? That because council is a public meeting, it's it has some attention. We can also request, the board can also request the opportunity to reach out to developers with a letter that will be approved by the board, by submitted by the chair, and to donate to the 50, our nonprofit organization, the Friends of Oviedo, for the public arts, and that is so it would be a call for for donations but attached to a plan, right? That we have a plan, and also how we are going to start, if we have funds, how the board wants to start using the funds.
Also, is the CRA still looking into getting us funding?
I think the CRA will have to be revised to include public arts to be able to designate funds to the public.
Is that?
I think it's not
Is that
spelled
something
out.
they're currently working on?
But it's not going to be short term. That is a long term, and the CRA has a lot of competitive, projects. So we try to include in the CRA budget. That was something that I requested, and I think I put $20,000. But it was rejected because it was not spelled out in the
initially
in the plan. It was a great idea. Yeah, so ours did not spell out.
So has Sanford, since they have had no money, have they been able to do anything with no money?
No, I think that what we could do for next meeting, maybe, is to assign some tasks for ourselves. I would suggest that we thought about one first action. What would be our first intervention, action, idea that would expose the Public Arts Board to the city of Oviedo? Could be a contest, could be a color run. Let's think a little bit, each one of us, a little bit more about that. So that would be one goal. And the second thing I would suggest is to also start to discuss and do a review of this. That's what we have by now. And, starting to think about our medium-term project, which would be the master plan. So we would be advancing both things, doing something more practical, very pragmatic, and first action, and at the same time thinking about how the master plan could be developed. That's my suggestion for next meeting. So we would already have 2 points to do.
One of my earlier thoughts was that Food Truck Thursday has an art walk. That could be pursued because it's mostly crafts, and they promote it as an art walk, and it's very poor participation in it.
Speaking to that, I think today, in our group, this is a very sensory, visual thing that we're embarking on, and we need to think about marketing. The city, I don't think, is really geared to marketing for an art group. I mean, I don't see it as that. I may be wrong, but I don't see it as that. And we might need to think about a logo, and marketing and social media and all of that. And I'm not sure that even can be used with the city. Probably not. Yes. Okay.
So to follow up on your question, Sanford, I'm going to give you some examples. So since Sanford didn't have a lot of money to start with, like you all don't yet, and you've got some money coming soon, those are the things they did focus on, putting the word out. They were given $1,500 to start with initially. So they used it to create like inserts and tours, directories of people at the rest stop, what do you call those, little flyers.
Mhm.
And you could actually, they're very cheap to get, and you could actually print them in-house. They're talking about more, like Stanford Arts Commission. We review, public art, murals, we like art installations, these are our goals, please contact us, just snap it up. That was one idea to put themselves out. The other thing they did was a lecture series. Volunteers to come and talk, and you can, usually they'll come and give us different variety of topics. Not always well attended, but sometimes do in conjunction with other events like our they do it in conjunction with talk about but that was another way they started out, was the lecture series, because it was cheap, it was free. A lot of times the artists will come talk for free if you can talk, somebody who's willing to maybe go out to dinner with them afterwards, and, that kind of thing, kind of an honorary kind of thing, it's kind of a big deal to say part of their resume, right, eventually. Other things they did is, we tried to apply for a grant from the Seminole Arts Council, that didn't work.
We have no money either.
That didn't work. So those are things. And then they started a priority list.
Yeah, that's exactly, I think
And,
that's,
and so, like with you all, you do know you've got some money coming soon, so maybe you create a priority. Is it murals? Well, you kind of already identified it primarily for murals. So, but beyond that, is your next priority a large sculpture, or is it City Hall artwork? Those kinds of things. But those were the main things they did. Now, logo-wise, they inquired about doing, an arts council logo, but cities generally have a certain standard. They like to keep you within, and we don't want the city, boards branching off in different directions with logos and those types of things. I'm assuming we would be the same way. They also put out their events on Facebook. The city invited to do Facebook events, probably the city was looking into.
well, okay, that's, any direction like that has to be approved by council, right? So a logo would have to be approved by council. And social media, we have social media, so we can push forward information. Again, has to be approved by either the city manager, social media. So we decide to do an event like a contest, a photograph. I think the idea of a contest that people submit to us is very easy because it's cheap, right? We just need to announce. They submit to us, and so we don't need to organize, we don't need to close streets at this point, we don't need to do anything, but it's a start, right? And we have walls to exhibit, material, so that will be a start. But that also needs to be approved by council. So we need any of those programs, those events, it will be generated by this board, and then has to be presented by council for approval.
The city of Oviedo already does a lot of events. Is there any way we can be incorporated into them by just setting up a booth and spreading our word there? We could, face-to-face marketing.
Oh, that would be easy. I mean, in one of our events, to have.
Just being at an event that's already happening. Oviedo is doing a lot of events these days of the cultural center and amphitheater and stuff. So we were just out there with a table of chairs talking to people about it.
Yeah,
I think along those lines, Margie is a good point. It would be really nice to have something graphically that we can put on a table, just something simple. So if that does need to be approved by City Council, I'd be in favor of seeing if we can pursue that.
Yeah.
And I'd be willing, I don't know, there are probably other people here with graphic design skills, but it doesn't have to be magnificent. It could just be very simple. But something graphically, some kind of treatment of our name, just so that when we are at places or sending emails or asking for money or whatever it is we're doing, we have something to use that represents us.
Yes. Yeah.
Represents what the city's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I have no idea if City Council will buy that, a specific logo, or it will. Yeah,
have
well-
an interpretation or something.
Yeah, the right
You know, having
fonts and the
this
right-
part of the logo kind of deal, right? As a graphics.
I mean, some people don't want to have their logo bastardized. If the city doesn't want us to mark up their logo, that might be worse to
Yeah, but I'm
them.
saying what you have is their logo, and then underneath it you have.
Well, this is a board
your-
from the city, so this is the city of Oviedo Public Arts Board. So it'll be,
Yeah.
I think that.
But maybe they were sure to be more artistic with,
A treatment of it.
leave their
Sure.
logo alone, but
I see what you're saying.
some,
Yeah.
but not
still,
artist, I'm an accountant.
Yeah, no. You've got a good point. I'm just saying, I'm in favor of that idea. I think it would behoove us to have something like that to be able to put on things down the road.
I think that all the things that we are discussing here to organize our ideas, it would be good that if you could, for the next meeting, to bring there a list of what you think that is important. And I think that we have to reflect on exactly your question, and what's our goal? We have to define that.
Yes.
You know, I think that that's part of our discussion. I mean, what would be the goal of the board in this whole initiative that we have to have, or try to have it clear, I think, to be able to be more effective.
There's been a lot of information that has come out just since this morning, so we all need some time to absorb it,
Process,
think about
right?
it, digest it, and then
And we'll have minutes, too, from that,
Yes.
to be able to refresh her.
So I believe that, would you accept that idea to bring at least, what's our role, try to respond to that, what would be our first action in terms of ideas for that, and start to read that and give some comments on how it could start, what could be incorporated, what's our vision, that, okay?
Yeah.
And if I could add one more thing, because I think it would be also nice to have, maybe think about a list of people that we could invite from,
Yes.
so City of Castleberry or City of Winter Park, City of Orlando. I mean, how can we use the examples of to come and then, we can invite them to come and they tell us their experience, how they
Some
started.
people that we could
Yeah.
approach to bring.
We can do that individually. We don't have to be tasked by the board and the city council.
To ask them, I think you would, but you mean to come up with the idea of inviting them? Or you mean
Inviting them
inviting
here, I think that is okay, right?
Oh.
I mean, if you all
inviting
decide the
from
chair
our
to our board,
Is that something that we can do?
Individually?
I think so. I mean, because this is the board trying to. Yeah, we are just trying to understand how other cities get information. It's basically.
If you have contacts with those people, otherwise you can verify.
But you will have to know who's coming so they can be on the agenda and give them the time to speak if they're going to, correct?
Yeah, I think that we can bring next meeting a list of people, ideas for that. And then
Or if you all want to give direction, right, or consensus that Mary can approach the Castleberry commissioner to come to speak to us, and we meet every second Wednesday of the month, so if it's not possible, the next one, the following, so that we already have something in place.
Sorry,
No?
It's a good idea. So basically, while we're thinking about it, we have one person who has contacts. If you could schedule a Wednesday in the future that maybe they could come, we could get that set up so that we come next time, we're brainstorming, but we have this in the agenda for the Wednesday after or the Wednesday after that,
So
whenever.
would you like me to try to see if he is available for the February meeting? Or are you asking for the January meeting? Because I have to give him.
Yeah, right.
I think whenever he's available.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we could ask for January and or February.
Okay, so whichever he might be.
He
available.
might be able to come. What would be the dates? It's January 10th
January 10th.
and February. We have a date.
You have the calendar.
Oh, I have the calendar.
We'll have a calendar.
Is it possible to readdress, and I have mentioned this to Dottie, to put it on the the itinerary, is it possible to readdress the idea of Wednesdays? I wanted to just bring that up and discuss that Wednesday is actually the best day for everyone. It's really not for me. I have standing commitments on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights that I have to miss. But I would prefer a Monday or a Thursday night. But I didn't know if there was a reason Wednesday was chosen. If that is better for everyone, then that's fine. But
Well, the Monday, we have city council meetings, first and third, and sometimes we have special meetings, so that's why we did not want to compete with Monday. But we can try like the fourth Monday, of the month or whatever, and then if there is a conflict with city council, then of course we'll have to reschedule this one. But we know the city council agenda beforehand, so we could do that. Tuesdays we have Lpa meetings, which is our land planning and agency board. They are trying to discuss change in their dates as well. So, and that's why when I heard your, suggestion, I said, well, maybe next meeting would be the best one to discuss. Actually, we have a meeting with a work session with LPA on the 11th, right?
Yes, Thursday.
So it's not going to be in the next one. But we are open. We avoid Thursdays and Fridays just because it's approaching the weekend. And I'm being very personal, if we change and do an extended weekend, whatever, that's Thursday and Fridays. So Friday is a no, right? Please don't. But Thursday, it's still open, but it's still, so that's why we put Wednesday. But LPA meets twice a month. So, but Tuesday is also not good for you.
I teach an art class Tuesday nights.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second Wednesday in February is Valentine's Day, so,
Well, that one in January we can discuss if we all want to. To postpone, that's fine.
Ironically speaking, I have to excuse myself because I have somewhere to be at 8. But I'm generally available to, change the dates if there's head time, and I'll look over this stuff. And nice to meet everyone. See you next time.
All right.
Thank
Nice
you.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
So I think that we can finish the meeting officially.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Motion to adjourn, right?
Adjourned.
I have an important question. How do you pronounce your
Hold on,
My name is Genevieve, and nickname is Jen.
He's asking her.
Jennifer? What do you prefer?
So did we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
just probably have to do that.
Confirm?